Well, welcome back to another edition of Inside BBI with John and Eric. I'm John McDevitt. With me, as always, senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy. I would first ask you, Eric, how are things going? But let's just cut right to the chase. We're not drinking this morning. This is iced. This is unsweetened iced tea. I am now down 10.5 pounds since I started my thing, so I'm still cruising along. So here we are. But Eric, holy shit, the landscape has changed. Let's just wade right into the one big part before we get to all the stuff we really wanted to talk
The
about.
special teams coordinator? Is that what
That's it exactly. We championship. No, so let's talk about the thing with
I don't want to talk about this. You
I know.
stupid mother blankers. Oh my, or I shouldn't say. All right. What?
I got you. It's Saturday morning. We'll bleep ourselves. We'll beep ourselves. You and I were talking offline real quick, and it's funny. Jokingly, a little while ago, I made a comment while we were talking, and I said, "Can you imagine that Steve Tisch probably has a casting couch in his office?" Someone in chat kind of mentioned, "Hey, I know you're just joking, but as a parent and things like that." And I totally agreed. I was like, "Yeah, that probably wasn't smart." Holy crap! I said it to be funny. I did not think that we would be looking at something that could very well be this true. Let's thoughts in general, right where we're at right now, and how this affects the New York Giants.
Thank God, John Harbaugh is signed under contract right now, because I wonder if he would have passed on the New York Giants if this information had dropped before we hired him. He might not have wanted to come to this organization. This is a humongous black eye for the organization. There is a lot of back and forth commentary on Big Blue Interactive and on social media, whether or not, proven till, innocent till proven guilty, blah, blah, blah. And again, this is so we protect ourselves. There are allegations out there. These are alleged things that have happened. There's documentary evidence, but again, these are all allegations. But perception overrides reality in many instances. And I don't know if Steve Tisch can ever remove himself from this stigma in any level, his professional career outside the New York Giants, plus the New York Giants. This is going to follow him for the rest of his life. And I wonder if he's going to have to go into semi-seclusion because how he's been tainted. And there have been very many other powerful people that are going to be implicated in this, as they should be. But we're going to keep this to the New York Football Giants, and please, on BBI, also keep this to the New York Football Giants. It is the only reason this is being allowed to being discussed on the Giants on BBI right now is because it's intimately related and tied to the New York Giants. But this is a gigantic black eye to the organization. It's to the point where it almost overrides everything, all the positivity from the John Harbaugh news, and I hope it doesn't, but right now it is. If you go on social media right now or anywhere, it's overriding everything. And I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit more, but this is just, it's not what the team needed right now. And I think the Giants are going to have to act pretty quickly to deal with this. I don't think they can just issue a statement like they did this morning and think that this is going to go away. It's not going to go away. That's my opinion. I don't think it's going away.
Yeah, I think first off, it's interesting that we're seeing a very huge focus, and again, I don't want to get into too much about all that other. I try to avoid a lot of the other stuff. It just, I don't want to affect my day-to-day life so much. But in this particular case, I find it interesting that very specifically he was found so quickly. My assumption, though, is that based on the size of these files, they are going to find other people in the NFL, and this is going to be something that the NFL as an organization, as a protect the shield situation, is going to have to deal with. That being said, specific to the New York Giants, if you're the Mara family, right? They've always prided themselves on being this is a family thing. The New York Giants is a family thing. It's their baby. They're not huge business people. They own the New York Giants. That's kind of their deal. They're also very, in my assumption, based on things I've seen and heard, they have a very deep religious piece to them as well. They have a very strict moral, we believe, at least they present, kind of guide. This can't sit well with especially John Mara being where he is right now, being ill, being whatever the situation that is. This has to be such a black eye to him and the family that I can't imagine they themselves will want this. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is we don't know what agreements are in the articles that they have for ownership with the Giants. Are there things that would include, if it came to something that was just so egregious against what they believed, would that force you to sell? There is a possibility that that is there. There could be some.
Well, again, remember, we live in a society, and it's been like this for decades now, at least decades, where there's two-tier justice systems and two-tier systems when it comes to institutions. So the Krafts and the Jerry Joneses of the world tend to get away with, to use a phrase, murder, but not literal murder. But and Steve, I shouldn't say Robert Tisch. Steve Tisch may think if the dust settles long enough on this, he may get away with it, and he might. We'll have to see. But we all know, I mean, unless you're terribly naive, that if you're rich and powerful, people tend to look the other way. Look, there's a little personal background on this. My father he's retired now, was an architect and a builder, and he built homes for decades in the Caribbean and a lot on St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Back in the 1980s, when I was still a teenager, I would go down and see my father when he was working, and I'd volunteer to work on job sites. And he told me about an island off of St. Thomas called Little St. James, and what a disgusting place it was. And it was well known to everybody down there, to the Department of Interior, because the U.S. Virgin Islands, the United States government owns the U.S. Virgin Islands. We got it from Denmark, and the Department of Interior knew about it. The FBI knew about it. Local law enforcement down there knew about it. Little St. James is Epstein Island, for those who don't know. This was well known back in the 1980s to everybody who was down there. And it was an open secret to all the rich and powerful people. So for the Giants to issue a statement, it was either last night or this morning, saying that, as we know now, Epstein's a problem. No, he was a well-known figure for 40 years. For 40 years, they knew what a scumbag this guy was. And then they issue a statement that says, well, we were discussing philanthropy and investments.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, discussing the ass of a Ukrainian girl, it doesn't fly. It reminds me of this clip from Philadelphia.
I'm a full-on rapist, Africans, dyslexics, children, that sort of thing.
I'm sorry. Did you say you're a full-on rapist?
No, did I say that? No. I help people. You know what I mean? I'm a
Philanthropist?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It gets blocked up in my mouth. I don't say it no good.
So I mean, yeah, we were discussing philanthropy. I mean, give me a break. I mean, you can't just issue that statement and think this is going to go away. It's not going to go away. So, again, I don't know how much time you want to spend on this, but this is a huge black eye for the organization. It's going to, unfortunately, you're going to get a lot of non-Giants fans mocking the New York Giants now because of this. Sure. They're going to be like, what a disgusting organization. And like you said, the Maras are going to have to decide what, if anything, they can do about it. And the Tisch family is going to have to decide. And unfortunately for the Tisch family, it's going to be guilt by association. There are a lot of Tisches involved in the New York Giants organization, including on the board. And the name has been dirtied now. So if you're Tisch, if your last name's Tisch and you're associated with the New York Giants, you can't divorce yourself from this. He's basically screwed his entire family and dragged them through the mud on this. Now, again, people are going to say, whoa, his name's in the file. Big deal. Some people have said that it's big deal. What does it matter if the girls are, what if the girls are over 18? I don't care if they're over 18 or not. Sex trafficking. So, I mean, I don't know how much you want to spend on this, but
all right. So you and I did not discuss this beforehand. I had thought about this and I didn't know where I was going to go with it. So I'm going to start the caveat here, and I'll do, because apparently the system, if I say clip this, when I do these later on, it'll clip this. So clip this. This is strictly my opinion. This is not Eric's opinion. I didn't talk to him about it. I personally believe that the Giants have no choice. Steve Tisch needs to step down, diversify, sell the team, his portion of the team, or the Damaris and Tisches need to sell it entirely. He has no choice but to do that. I don't give a shit if you're guilty by association. The fact of the matter is you at least admitted there was an association. It doesn't matter that I didn't exactly buy drugs from the drug dealer that I was hanging out with and getting advice for him and all these other stuff. I just went to go to a party with him and some other stuff. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You can say whatever you want. He has to sell. There's no choice but to do that. As a parent, myself combined, we're a blended family of 9 kids. 6 are young women. You're a scumbag that I'd never want to be associated with or around, period. I don't want you associated with my team. It's gross. It's awful. You knew better. Why the hell? You had to have known. You had to have known that if your name was included even a little bit, this shit has been out there for so long. It's just been, people have been waiting for all the files. And again, I'm not going to get political, but let's just be honest. These files have been being held by the U.S. government for quite a while now. So I'm curious on, why a lot of these things weren't released a long time ago. That being said, you are done, Steve Tisch. You have to sell this team. You need to get the hell out. Go hide. Go live on an island. I'd probably pick a different island. But you need to go. It's the end of story. You need to go. And you can't ban me from my own show.
And I don't grant, and Norm, I don't agree with this point of view. Again, I don't care if the girl is 20. I don't care if the girl's 14. Sex trafficking is sex trafficking. And again, he's interacting with he was a known sex trafficker in 2013. I'm sorry to say that we know now he's a problem. Correct. Bullshit.
There was issues in Florida, I believe, already.
So no. Look, I don't know. I don't think he has to do anything. He could hold on. I get what you're saying. You're
sure. I did say it was my opinion.
Yeah.
My opinion.
No. What I'm saying is, he can try to hold on for dear life. He doesn't have to do anything. You would think he should do it
and want to really let me get the fuck out of the spotlight.
Part of this is John. Part of this is, again, what you and I have talked about in the past, unrelated to this, is who owns this team. How many shares does John Mara own? How many shares does Steve Tisch own? And how many shares do the other Maras and the other Tisches own? We know Julia Koch owns 10% of the team, but we don't really know who else owns the team in terms of the shares and the percentages and stuff like that. So we have a lot of other stuff to talk about, but I just, on this, it's just that the timing of this is just a train wreck. The only thing that, thank God, didn't come before Harbaugh was hired, because again, if I'm Harbaugh, holy hell, I don't know if I want to be a part of this.
Well, see, that's the other thing. I thought of that just a second ago as we were talking. He's like, John Harbaugh, imagine what he thinks, right? Like, there's another person. As I said before, when I said Harbaugh might be a possibility for the Giants way back when, if you go back through the shows, you'll see where I mentioned it at one point that I thought he might be in trouble in Baltimore and he could be a thing for the Giants. That one of the big things that might appeal to him about the Giants is the family piece, because he comes from a coaching family. They're a family that are just very football family. They're together, and the Maras are a football family. You take the job, and within the first 3 weeks of you being there, one of the owners is now coming up in one of the seediest, grossest, just most horrifyingly disgusting situations we have known as a planet, let alone the country, has known about. But now names are coming out and things are coming out, and one of the owners is associated with that. How do you feel about that? So yes, I mean, I think, now here's something to keep in mind. The Seattle Seahawks apparently are going to be for sale after the Super Bowl. There's word that they're
I saw that.
The valuation for them, some people was putting it at $6 or $7 billion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you right now, the Giants valuation is going to be well north of 10. So if the Giants were ever going to sell, and they now have, they have their Zillow comparison here. The Seahawks are going up right now, and we're in this market. You can add quite a bit to that. It'd be north of $10 billion that this team would be up for.
Yeah. Well, again, my last comment on all of this is going to be,
Yeah, and
let's not lose sight of the human element that's involved in this. We can all get into the sort of, again, what does this mean for the Giants? What does this mean for football? Blah, blah. And people like to score political points and whatever. You and I have talked movies before. I think the movie I'm thinking is titled Sound of Freedom. Is that the name of it? It's about the child sex trafficking.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
If you haven't seen it, I think that's the name of it. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a tough watch, but it's a marvelous movie.
Yes, that is the movie.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen Sound of Freedom, watch Sound of Freedom, and it's an ugly side of what's going on, but it's one of those movies it's like Schindler's List. You need to see it to understand, to really understand, and we're talking about human beings here. So it's I don't know how he will never be able to recover his name. Therefore, you almost have to go into seclusion. You almost have to. But does he do that? I don't know. But as Paul says here, Paul wants to talk about football stuff, and we'll pivot to that at least now or in a second. But this is going to impact the Giants. What was going to be a very sort of uplifting, fun spring now turns into this. There's this giant shadow over this, and how long they want to keep the shadow in place, I think largely depends on how tightly Steve Tisch holds on to try to prevent from leaving the organization. So we'll see what happens.
And the other part to keep in mind is you mentioned something about how big corporations, big time money tends to be able to kind of circumvent or work around, right? They can get around some things, and where you or I or whoever, if you got caught in a lot of these things these other people do, you're going to jail. They kind of get away with it. There's a fine, whatever. The NFL has forever gotten away with what they do because they avoid basically being a monopoly. They have an exemption from an antitrust situation where they are really in many ways there is no competition. They do everything but the government has allowed that because the NFL does certain things that fit this thing. At some point that's going to go away. At some point that will go away. The NFL can't be very happy right now. In the glory of their time in each season is the week before and the week
I didn't even think of that.
Of the Super Bowl, where it is all about the teams that are there. It's about the shield. It's about the growth. It's about the future. It's about the international games because they usually announce some of the games during that time. They'll let things out that they're planning to do. It's when they announce their Hall of Fame class where the guys who have made it to the Hall of Fame get announced. And here you are with probably the biggest black eye that you could possibly get right before that 1 week leading into the game is about to happen.
I didn't even think about that. You're a fantastic point, John.
They can't be happy. They can't be happy right now. So
and the NFL hasn't had, in my book and Giants fan book, hasn't had a good week anyways with Bill Belichick not getting into the Hall of Fame. Shador Sanders is a Pro Bowl quarterback. I mean, what is going on? What's happening? What is happening? So anyways, all right.
Well, yeah, there's just so much right now that I think you'll see resolution on the Tisch Giants piece of it. At least what's going to happen very quickly.
You do.
And I do. I think the NFL is going to put a huge thing that's going to say, find a way to exit. Don't make us make you exit. Find a way to exit. And I think the mayor's probably too. And Tisch, I mean, let's be honest. What the fuck does Tisch bring to this situation? Other than he is like an unbelievably expensive shuttle service to go get our next potential head coach. For now, I'm hoping we won't need that shuttle service for the next head coach for at least another 5 years. So let's maybe move on from that. But I think you're going to see something.
We'll see.
Because quite frankly, more could come out.
Again, that's other owners have. It's not as to this level, but other owners have had sort of sorted things happening, and they've gotten away with it. So again,
yeah, but the eye is on this one. The problem is because again of the time frame, and you look right now on X, which by the way, I need to stop going on to X. But if you look on there right now, every NFL media person is now commenting on it. I mean, people don't really even pay attention much to the Giants. They do other stuff. They're commenting on it. And it is it's the snowball, and it's heading downhill, and it's heading downhill.
That's correct too. And part of me wonders if this was any other situation, I would say the storm would blow over. People love to look. One thing I've learned about being on BBI is it used to, the sexist reputation is that it's women who like to gossip and be emotional and get into all this kind of stuff, this kind of no, guys do it constantly on BBI, and they do it on social media, that they're constantly getting into the gossipy things, this emotional stuff. But this is, and some of that dies down, so people love to weigh in on controversial subjects, and then it sort of then once the dust settles, it kind of goes away. I don't think this is going away. So in other words, that's I'm kind of go full circle here when I said earlier that Steve Tisch may hope that this, as time passes, people will let this will get out of their memory. I don't think this is going to get out of people's memory. I think this is too big, and it's been too big for too long. This is a subject matter that's been on people's radar now for years now. So I don't think it's going away. And again, I don't know. I mean, when people hear Steve Tisch's name now, they're going to think about this. It doesn't matter if it's 10 years from now; th're going to still right.
This is the stigma. This is the thing that you have. This is your scarlet letter, and you're going to wear it. But the difference is, it's if even the association. Again, I'm not backing off what I said before. I want to be careful that I'm not going to lessen anything that I said, because I don't want him associated with the New York Giants. Period. That's it. But even if you somehow come up with a way of proving that what you said in your statement is pretty true, then I don't give a shit, because your judgment is horrible. Your judgment is horrible. This is somebody that you went to for questions about. By the way, that just sounds dumb. I don't go to the corner drug dealer to ask him, what should I take for my bad back? You know what I'm saying? Like, so you went to him for philanthropy for that guy?
Yeah. I mean, well, again, remember, what is Steve Tisch's industry?
Yeah,
it's movie making.
Yeah,
don't tell me anybody in Hollywood doesn't know about Epstein or
Weinstein or all that shit.
Tell me that doesn't pass the smell test. He knows who he's dealing with. He's not a choir boy.
Right.
He's not a choir boy. And John and I alluded to this in a previous episode. It's just complete irony that this has come back. But you and I, like a month ago or something, were joking about he's kind of sleazy. He's kind of a sleazy guy. Optimus brought up the picture with the girl in the stands. I brought that up, and people got mad at us for bringing it up. And it was nothing about this, but lo and behold, here we are. I take no joy in this. This is awful. This is awful for the New York Giants. This is terrible timing. Not the timing never would have been good, but Jesus Christ. I mean, anyways. All right.
Yeah. So
let's pivot.
Yeah, let's shift gears. So with that, just again, it's going to get heated in many other places. I think we're pretty clear on how we feel about it. I know for sure how I feel about it. Anything else from it, directions that people want to go in, that's you, how you want to take it. I want the guy going, and that's the end of the story. I think he's a shitty representation of men, and I think he needs to go. Okay.
Well said.
We got John Harbaugh as a head coach. There were some thoughts immediately of Monken coming over as the offensive coordinator. There was thoughts maybe Zach Orr would be his defensive coordinator, or maybe it was, one of the other guys he was associated with. And all of a sudden, I don't know how Eric Monken got a head coaching job. I never would have picked him out as a head coach, but we lose Monken. I don't think it's as big of a deal, but your thoughts on that part of it first. I know a lot of people are kind of freaking out about it.
I think it's a big deal. I know what you feel like this. Look, it's not the end of the world, but let's be clear about this. Let's talk about the positive stuff first and then get to Monken. I think it's without a doubt that John Harbaugh got the special teams coordinator he wanted. It's the guy it's Chris Horton, and he worked for Harbaugh for 11 or 12 years. Almost his entire resume, he's not an old guy, is being a special teams assistant. and then the special teams coordinator, I think 7 years the coordinator under John Harbaugh. And John Harbaugh is a special teams coach. So John Harbaugh got his guy, and a guy that the Ravens initially blocked until they got a new coach. They didn't want to lose him. He got the special teams coach, Harbaugh, got his special teams guy who he's worked for 12 years. That's a big win. There was speculation all along that Harbaugh wanted to bring in Leonard, which I think mostly that was coming from people on X. I don't think that was coming from national or local beat reporters. And then the guy that's the Miami defensive coordinator, what was his name? I can't think of it right now.
Is it Weaver? Is it
Weaver?
Weaver?
And Weaver still hasn't been hired, has he?
I don't believe so. I'll look right now.
I don't think Weaver's been, unless I missed it. I think Weaver's still out there. Anyways,
he's going to Cleveland.
Wait, Weaver's going to Cleveland?
That's what I just saw.
So does that mean Schwartz is definitely
to become the Cleveland Browns defensive coordinator? I think Schwartz basically was kind of pissed off that he didn't get the job.
That just happened, so Weaver was still out there when the Giants hired Denard Wilson. So Denard
correct.
Defensive coordinator. So I think, unless I'm misreading the situation, Harbaugh got the guy he wanted as defensive coordinator. So unless Weaver didn't want to come here, which I don't know why that would be.
I would think. Let's be honest, right? Harbaugh knew the situation with Monken, right? It sounds like Monken was going to.
Well, I want to talk about Monken.
No. I'm coming. Hold on. It sounds like he knew Monken would come with him if he didn't get a head coaching job. So I'm assuming they had conversations that said, if you get a head coaching job, do you have certain coaches that you're going to try to get? And they probably knew that Monken's like, yeah, I'd like to get Weaver. I want Weaver to come with me, and I've talked to him about. So I'm going to bet Harbaugh.
Well, I don't think Monken had anything to do with the defensive side of the football. I think that I would divorce those two separately. I think.
What are you trying to say?
So Weaver's defensive, Monken's offense.
No,
I don't think.
No. Stop. Yep. I'm gonna reel you back in, and we're gonna follow the train of thought. My point is, you're Monken.
Right.
I'm Harbaugh. I'm talking to you. You tell me, hey, I'll be your offensive coordinator unless I get a head coaching job. Okay, great. Hey, listen, we're both. If you become a coach, because I'm trying to get some other guys too. He's like, yeah. You tell me, if I do, Anthony and I have already talked. I want Anthony to be my defensive coordinator. So if I'm Harbaugh, I kind of know if Monken gets a job, Weaver's probably going with him. So if I've got two guys that are close, I'm pivoting and getting the guy that I wanted. So I think he probably knew Weaver and Monken might be going together. That's my point.
I'll agree to disagree. I agree. I don't think the coordinators would have coordinated like that.
You don't think they talk to each other, that if I become a head coach, I want you to come with me as a defensive coordinator?
No.
Really?
I wouldn't. No, we'll just disagree. But anyways, I think Harbaugh got his defensive coordinator in Denard Wilson, and it's interesting. Connor Hughes was talking about, when he covered the Jets, that he talked to two of the Jets coaches about Denard Wilson years ago. And he said, do you think he's ever going to be a good defensive coordinator? And the response from both guys separately was, he's going to be a hell of a head coach. So I think Denard Wilson is sort of flying under the radar with a lot of Giants fans, in that they look at his. The irony here too is, by the way, is Daboll wanted to bring in Denard Wilson when he was his first or second choice ahead of Shane Bowen. And for people who don't know, Denard Wilson was a defensive backs coach in Baltimore, and Giants tried to hire him when Wink was gone, was let go, and Denard passed on working with Daboll and went to Tennessee. Again, we've sort of come full circle here. Here he is back with the Giants. So my point with all this is, we got our number one special teams coach. I think we got our number one or number two defensive coordinator. Monken clearly was going to be the guy that was brought in here. Jeremy Fowler even reported that Monken had agreed to be the Giants' offensive coordinator, provided he didn't get a head coaching job. So it was already a done deal. And so I think this blindsided the Giants somewhat. And again, I think Harbaugh will pivot, and he has to pivot, obviously. But I don't think they were expecting this, because if they were, I think he didn't have a number 2 guy immediately lined up. You know what I mean? They're going through the process right now. If he had already assumed that Monken wasn't going to come here, I think number 2 would have already been hired, and they're still going through that right now. Why this hurts is twofold, or a number of reasons. If Monken comes in here, he brings in a system that Harbaugh's already familiar with, and a language that Harbaugh's already familiar with. And he brings in the assistant coaches on offense who are now going to Cleveland, that they would have been a package deal. So they all would have come in. It would have been a nice easy transition for all involved. And now Harbaugh's got to go through a somewhat more risky process of hopefully now he's got a good track record of hiring the right people, but it's always a risk. Does he hire the right person who's going to have a new system, who's going to have a new language, and is going to have to bring in a whole new cast of characters as of offensive assistants? So it complicates the situation. It's not insurmountable. But it's not ideal. It sucks, and it's disappointing, and it's a bigger deal than some people are admitting to. I've seen a lot of comments on BBI where people are saying, "Oh, it's no big deal." It's a big deal. Now they can overcome it, and I have confidence Harbaugh will. But it sucks. And these guys were supposed to be in here, done, going down to the Senior Bowl, doing all this stuff now. But now we're still in the middle of this search. So I think it matters. I think it sucks. I'm kind of pissed off at Cleveland, but you can't blame Monken for if he didn't take this job. This was going to be he's going to be 60 next year. This was going to be his last best chance to be a head coach. I don't know if he's going to end up regretting it, but it sucks for the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, a part of me is like, I don't really care as much, only because of the standpoint that I believe that the head coach is of such an ilk that he's going to put together a staff that's going to be fine. If this were Dayball, even before we knew how that went, if this was Pat Shurmur, if this was McAdoo, then I'd be worried. There's no history, and we were all like, "Oh my God, that's the guy he wanted." Now they don't know what they're doing. Harbaugh, in this case, it's not like Monken spurned him because it was all done deal, and then he's just like, "Nah, I don't want to come there."
Right.
He got a promotion. He got to be a head coach, even if it is for crazy Cleveland, and you're going to deal with the Shadur Sanders bullshit that's going to follow you. And I don't even mean his play on the field. It's all the other stuff above it that you got to deal with. But he got a head coaching job. You can't blame him. I almost wonder if the Giants will stumble into actually something better. Maybe that whole thing, I'm bringing the guy. No, because let's be honest, right? You talk about a missed field goal really is what opened the door for John Harbaugh to be available. That's partly true. The other part of it was ownership was talking to John Harbaugh and said, you need to get rid of Monken. They were unhappy. Lamar Jackson was unhappy with Monken. He did not want him to be the offensive coordinator, and Harbaugh wasn't going to fire him. He basically forced their hand. So, maybe we lucked out in that he has to step out and get somebody else, and maybe we get that young guy that really bonds. Who knows? Right. That will be played out. But the one thing you did say that did change thing is our coaching staff did not go to the Senior Bowl. Whether that's a big deal or not a big deal, I don't really know per se. The Senior Bowl seems to be a bit overrated now than what it used to be. But clearly the Giants contingent was much smaller than it has been in the past.
Yeah. Monken would have been a good fit. I think it's not just what he did in Baltimore. It's what he did at Georgia when he was the offensive coordinator there on that team that was dominating. And since Georgia has lost Monken, they're still good, but they're not. I think somebody said they were 4-0 in bowl games with him, and they're 1-3 without him. So Monken's a good coach. Look, I'm not going to go. I said all along he was a perfect fit for Dart, and I'm not going to go back on that. And other people have said that. So we'll see. There are other guys. The other guys that they're interviewing, we should probably talk about now. So where we are now, I don't know, and no one has reported. By the way, people have been talking about this. Have you noticed that the leaks are starting to dry up with the Giants?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, huh?
So we're not hearing a whole hell of a lot from the beat reporters, the asshats, what's going on. But the Giants requested an interview with Davis Webb, the former New York Giant quarterback, who beat the Eagles in a meaningless game. But did that interview take place? No one's reported if that's taken place. Now they have set up interviews, and I think one was yesterday with Shane Dane. Shane Dane's today, isn't it? Shane Dane, I think, is today.
So.
Jim Bob Cooter. So Shane Dane.
I'm sorry. As an adult male, at some point, don't you think you want to change that name? I mean, all I think of, and I know it's not original because I saw other people posted on BBI, BigBlueInteractive.com. I mean, all I think of is the Dukes of Hazzard. We're going down to get Jim Bob Cooter. He's going to come down here, call the offense. I'm like, you can't. Come on, man. Like, come on.
There's only one reason young guys our age watched Dukes of Hazzard back in the day, and that was Daisy Duke. So, anyways, so Jim Bob Cooter is the offensive coordinator for Daniel Jones. All the irony, and of course, Alex Tanney is the passing game coordinator.
He's great in the quarterback room. He is great in the quarterback room. That's what I've always.
So we have two. So here can we come with Daniel Jones again? So we're interviewing two guys that work with Daniel Jones as our offensive coordinator. And by the way, where's Brian Daboll now?
He's in Tennessee.
He's in Tennessee, which was the team that he beat in 2022. That sort of started that whole coaching. I mean, everything is. Real life can be more interesting than fantasy sometimes. But anyways, all right. So Shane Dane is the quarterback's coach for the Chargers. He's being interviewed. Jim Bob Cooter is the offensive coordinator for the Colts. Alex Tanney, another Giants quarterback, is the passing game coordinator. And then, of course, there's Davis Webb, who we've already talked about. And he's with the Broncos as their pass game coordinator. So it looks like we're looking at one offensive coordinator who doesn't call the right. Jim Bob Cooter, the reason he would move was because I don't think he calls the plays with the Colts.
Yeah, I wondered, is that enough? Is that enough?
I don't know.
Distinguish between the. I mean,
maybe they would let him go just as a professional courtesy. I'm not sure, but other than that, they're looking at quarterback coaches and passing game coordinators, and that's kind of what Philadelphia Eagles just hired too. Well, literally what they just hired. The Packers.
Many people did not want that job.
Yeah. Yeah. I think 9 people turned the Eagles down. Is that what it was? Or anyways,
that's interesting.
So the question is how long will this search continue, and will he get the right guy? And I'm sure whoever we pick, there'll be people who'll be happy and there'll be people who'll be unhappy, and none of us are going to know for sure how the outcome is going to be. Even John Harbaugh, it's just going to be a roll of the dice. Did they hire the right guy? That'll be the guy that brings along Jackson Dart, and then that guy's going to have to bring in who's going to be his offensive line coach. Now Harbaugh will probably be the overriding say in all this, but again, who's going to be the offensive line coach? Who's going to be the receivers coach, the running backs coach, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We know Tim Kelly. The other thing I will throw out there, somebody brought this up the other day on, I think it was ESPN, but it might have been the NFL Network. They said, don't discount Tim Kelly being the fallback option as offensive coordinator. He has done this at 2 other spots. Tim Kelly was the offensive coordinator with Houston and I think Tennessee, and he was the interim offensive coordinator with the Giants under Kafka. So that's not being talked about, except I saw one guy bring it up. And so I'm not saying that it should or will happen. I'm just saying, keep in mind that Tim Kelly's still in the picture. He was retained by Harbaugh. And I would assume he'd go back to the tight ends coach, but maybe he's also in the running for offensive coordinator. I don't know that. I'm just throwing that out there.
Sure. I mean, it depends. Any thoughts on, Kingsbury? Would you be interested, not interested? He's rumored to be, I don't know where you don't hear it a lot though. I mean, I don't know if Harbaugh has any existing relationship with that guy or what his thoughts would be, but a former head coach and a guy who's known as an offensive coach, but does that fit with what they're trying to do here?
Well,
I don't know.
He's interviewing guys that he has no relationship with now. So I think he's open. Excuse me. I would open it up to, which I think he's going to. I would open up to anyone. So who's going to come in and, in the meeting, lay out a vision that John Harbaugh likes? So I mean, that's where we are right now, and that's why the Monken thing kind of sucks. Is this would be all settled right now, and we'd be. I think they did have announced who the entire coaching staff. Somebody asked me on Twitter a few days ago, when are they going to announce all the hires or the hires that they've done? And I think they're going to wait until everything's sort of signed, sealed, and delivered, except maybe like a quality control coach or something like that. They might bring it later, but I think they're waiting to get everyone together. Then they'll issue the official press release.
What are your thoughts? It's not related to the coaching staff, but the word out there is that there is an executive vice president job supposedly, and I just saw it again posted, that the Giants that would be coming to the Giants, but that person would report to Harbaugh. Thoughts on if that's I've seen it a couple of spots now on X. I've seen a couple people share it. It's weird that it would be leaked out that that's true. If it's true, it would kind of tend to say that more and more the pieces that Shane plays is really going to be probably tied to the draft more than anything. Just thoughts on if that's true.
And I don't know. I haven't seen the report, and I don't know what the source is. There have been things that, including posted on BBI, that we've had to take down because they're coming from these horrific.
Oh my God, that other one, yeah,
terrible sources that don't even make any sense. About Deontay Banks.
I'll address that real quick. So if you're going to share something, make sure you have don't even worry about the reputable piece of where you're getting the info from.
Yes, please.
No. I get that, but start with the first part. Use your brain. The Giants, so one thing was like, oh, this is how they're going to do it, and these are the three guys. Wan'Dale Robinson. The Giants can't do shit with Wan'Dale Robinson unless they give him a whole new contract, right? But his contract is technically up. So now it would be a complete contract. And I don't think they can even do that just yet. They could redo a contract. B, they tag him. That ain't going to happen.
Do that.
Really, you can't say they're definitely bringing him back, because did anybody pick up the phone and go and dial, 5888? I'm making fun of his height. Did you dial the number and go, hey, Wan'Dale, do you even want to come back to the Giants? Because he's going to have options. Some team's going to offer him some money. So that's part of it. B, you get to Deontay Banks, okay? The Giants can't redo his contract. They haven't even picked up his fifth-year option yet. That's the only way they can redo his contract. Be like, oh, we'll pick up your fifth. And I don't see that they're going to do that. At best, they're going to let him play out that fourth year. He might not even be on the team. Give me a fucking break that they're going to redo him.
So to get back to your point, I don't know. I haven't seen what you're talking about, so I don't know how legitimate it is. Look, I'm all for bringing in new voices into the organization because the structure that they have in place wasn't working. And I think we've already seen Harbaugh take a sledgehammer to some of this. I mean, again, Kevin Abrams.
Strength and conditioning was added. Strength and conditioning.
That was I'll get to that in a second. Kevin Abrams leaving is a big deal. It's a giant. That is a huge deal. Ronnie Barnes being demoted through promotion is kind of a big deal. Now the strength and conditioning coach, they did bring over one. So the way these strength and conditioning programs are set in NFL teams is you have the senior, the overriding guy, the guy that's in charge of the entire strength and conditioning program. That guy did not leave Baltimore. I'm pretty darn sure John Harbaugh wanted him to come with him, but he's staying in Baltimore. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's staying there. The Giants did get one of the guys working underneath of him, Schrift, I think is his name. It came over, and there may be others. We'll have to see. So we did get one of the Baltimore Ravens trainers, strength and conditioning coaches to come, but he isn't the senior guy.
I don't know who this guy is, and if you already said it, I apologize. I've been trying to check things at the same time. But on X 46 minutes ago, the Giants are expected to name Chad Hall as wide receivers coach.
Oh, okay.
The ex-receiver was the Giants' assistant quarterback coach this season, now expected to remain on staff and coach the receivers under Harbaugh.
So he's already on staff now.
He was the assistant quarterbacks coach. He will now be the wide receivers coach, according to he was the wide receiver coach previously with the Jaguars.
Okay. Now who's reporting that?
Matt Zenitz. What is he? Who is he?
CBS, I think.
National NFL college football senior reporter for CBS Sports.
Yeah, yep. CBS. Okay, so that's another so that's interesting that they're hiring coaches before they have offensive coaches before they have the offensive coordinator. So that's interesting. Okay, because remember, John Harbaugh is not an offensive mind, and so, but obviously being a head coach for 18 years, he will pick up some of that. So that's interesting.
Well, some of the hard part too is like as time moves on, the longer it takes to get the coordinator, the less time you would have to then fill the positional pieces after the fact. So in some ways, if it's not integral to whatever the coordinator is going to do, maybe he doesn't have say over staff anyway, then Harbaugh's going to hire the guys he wants to hire, and that's just the way it's going to go.
Well, plus, remember, there's all these openings, and everyone's going to be competing to hire anyone who's unsigned as coaches. And the Giants do have to move kind of quickly here because there are other teams that are looking for offensive coordinators and other teams that are looking for position coaches. And Brian Daboll is already again, this is a guy that Brian Daboll theoretically could have brought with him to Tennessee. He brought Shea Tierney. He brought Priscilla went with him. I think there was somebody else, but at least those two coaches.
And there's two teams still, correct me if I'm wrong, two teams still need
Raiders
staffs, head coaches and staff.
Right. Raiders and who am I forgetting? I don't anyways. At least the Raiders.
The Raiders for sure. Yeah. And is it the Cardinals? I think is the Cardinals the other team?
Cardinals, yeah. So and let me look real quick on the other coaching. But so the Giants have brought in other coaches. I've been trying to they've got on the offensive side, offensive coordinator vacant, quarterbacks coach vacant, running backs coach vacant. Now you're saying the wide receivers coach is filled. Tim Kelly's still on staff, and I'm assuming tight ends coach for him still, but we don't know. They brought in an offensive quality control coach from the Ravens. Denard Wilson is the defensive coordinator. The defensive line coach they brought over from the Ravens, Dennis Johnson. Charlie Bolin is staying with the Giants, I assume is an outside linebackers coach. We don't know who the inside linebackers coach is.
Isn't Willie Taggart the running backs coach?
I don't think that was he was interviewed, but I don't.
According to Wikipedia, and I don't mean that's everything. It says he's the New York Giants running back.
Yeah, but I haven't seen, and I've seen that on Wikipedia, but I never saw him being I never saw a tweet from a national or a local source that he was definitely hired. He was interviewed. I never saw that he was actually hired. I've seen other people posted on BBI.
Right.
What Chase?
Oh, you paused, so I'll just keep talking in the meantime. I thought he had been hired. I'm trying to look for confirmation to where I saw it, but yeah, again,
it's seen somebody like after or
there you are.
You know, I've been using to verify
Stay with me, buddy.
Source on that, but what? Oh, I'm freezing.
You paused a couple of times, so I kind of kept talking in the meantime while you were paused.
Oh,
there you are.
Oh, okay.
Now you're back.
They got a defensive quality control coach from the Ravens. We got the defensive back coach that came over from the Ravens.
Master Maris is saying Taggart was hired, but they didn't list a position for him. Right, Taggart, no Rosewood. Master Mariner was posting it in the chat as well. I thought I had seen that he had been hired. I thought it was specific for the running backs coach, but I did see that he had been hired by the Giants.
The only place I saw it was on BBI, and I didn't see it on Twitter. I didn't see it from a national or local beat writer. So, but if somebody had seen that, please let me know, and I will update my records. But I have not seen anybody again. I haven't seen Schefter or Rappaport or Duggan or Art Stapleton. I have not seen them say we hired the guy.
So the Giants Wire report Giants to hire an executive VP who reports to John Harbaugh. And then somebody else reposted a thing saying Renan described this as further evidence that John Harbaugh is running the show.
But that
So
would be, yeah.
That'll be interesting of what that position actually entails.
Executive, what is the title again?
Executive vice president doesn't say exactly beyond that.
And he reports to John Harbaugh.
To Harbaugh, yes.
And it's executive vice president of football operations?
Doesn't exactly say. So, I mean, I'm sure they haven't given the exact full title. And don't get me started. Don't get me started on titles that don't mean shit, because that's a whole different thing.
My position on BBI, Big Blue Interactive,
nice,
has been one that has pissed off a lot of people on Shane, and that is Shane has been neutered. If what you're reporting, not you, what you're repeating as being reported is accurate and is like executive vice president of football operations, that tends to support what my position has been, in that Shane has been neutered. So, again, people think I'm trying to slam dunk on the guy and be mean. I'm not. I'm basically saying Shane came back. He's lucky to be back, and the Harbaugh hiring, to me, and what's transpired since he's been hired, seems to suggest that Shane is not as powerful as he used to be, and is going to be more of a puppet for. Now, I have had people come at me and say, "Puppet's too strong a phrase." That, are you a puppet if you work for any employer? I would argue yes. If my boss. If I have a boss and he tells me to jump, I say how high, I'm his puppet. And people might not want to think that way, so my point being that Shane does not have as much authority as he used to. And if they did hire somebody like they're saying, that tends to support my position that he's been neutered. That doesn't mean he doesn't have a role in the organization. It just means he doesn't have as much to say as he used to. I don't know if you feel that's that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, let's be honest. I mean, obviously, when you go and get a guy of that stature in John Harbaugh, and there was all the talk about that, there was a restructuring of how things were going to be done, and that the Giants were wading into places they weren't comfortable with. That has to all impact the role that Joe Shane plays. The guy has a record that says you don't have a position to go, I'm going to pound the table and demand that my job stays the way. You're lucky to have a job. Now, the fact that they're making it all nice, and they're going to work together, I think Shane's, and to his credit, I think he manipulates the draft in terms of what he thinks other teams are going to do, how it's going to play out. The fact that he didn't sell the farm to get Dart early, which, if you go by what Daboll wanted, by the way, sounds like Daboll wanted Ward even more than he wanted Dart.
Right.
But the fact that he didn't do that at 3, held his spot, and still got the guy he wanted, and he didn't give up a lot, comparatively speaking, of what you usually have to do to get back into round 1, when teams know you're desperate, by the way. The fact that he was able to do that, I think that's his one saving grace. And now another guy who's going to be calling the shots says, go ahead and manipulate the draft that way, but I'm going to tell you who it is we're going to get. That's how I see it.
I'm more curious to see what happens to the Giants scouting department after the draft is over. That will be very telling to me.
Right.
And look, some of this, unfortunately, is baked into the cake, because, again, we're in late. It's going to be February tomorrow, and the draft is rapidly approaching. It's not like you can bring in a whole new scouting staff and now and do this. It's too late for that. Plus, if you let go of the guys that you have, and we've talked about this before, they'll leak like crazy about who the Giants are really high on. So some of this is baked into the cake, and it's like the excuse Joe Shane made about his first draft, the Evan Neal draft. He was saying, well, I didn't have all my people in here, so we sort of had to. Now I'm paraphrasing, but we sort of had to wing it, because I didn't have. John Harbaugh is going to have to wing it a little bit, because he's stuck with the scouts and Joe Shane and everybody else here. Now, when the draft ends, does he keep those people, or does he start purging those people? That, to me, is going to be fascinating. Then we would approach your movie and my movie, Office Space.
Oh,
What exactly do you do?
Yeah.
Do you do here?
What do you do here?
And
I'm good with the goddamn people.
I'm a people.
What's wrong with you people? I love that movie. There's so many great things in that movie. But I don't want to jump to conclusions. But yes. So anyway.
So I think that's going to be fascinating, is to watch what happens after the draft. But right now, I mean, I just get I get the feeling that Harbaugh's running the show. And the other thing pre-draft is his Shane's input. I mean, again, we had Connor Hughes coming on here, and you asked him this question. He said, does Shane have the full authority on free agency? And he said, yes. Does Shane still have full authority in March when we start free agency? Who's going to be saying, I want this free agent? Is it going to be John Harbaugh, or is it going to be Shane? And who gets this final say on that? Now they'll say it's a collaborative effort, but come on,
it has to be Harbaugh.
Somebody's going to make the decision, though, because your free agent pie is going to be so big. And say Shane says, well, I really would like to bring in this guard, and Harbaugh says, no, I don't want that guard. I want this guard. So.
Do you remember? Obviously, you remember. Yeah. You remember Hard Knocks when they showed the Giants. I won't say their brain trust, but their player person.
Why won't you say brain trust?
Because it wasn't everybody. It was only those associated with the free agents, so the player personnel stuff, the pro player personnel stuff, and they were discussing, if we don't have this guy, like if we don't have Saquon, then we look. Okay, you remember all of that?
Yes.
Okay.
And if we sign this guy, we can't get this.
And then they will say, well, this guy's worth this much, and this guy, and this guy, and they were comparing them and all this stuff. Okay. I don't know if you watch. So if anybody in chat, I'm assuming you know what we're already talking about, the Hard Knocks piece. This piece, I don't know if any of you watch, but have you seen on Netflix the thing called Unreal? It's the WWE's behind the scenes. It's basically Hard Knocks for WWE.
Okay.
So it gives you all this behind the scenes stuff. One of the big knocks, besides the fact that you've now removed any sense of like, oh, this is not completely scripted. One of the big knocks that they've had is that it has shown their collective group, which again, I'm just going to give you names. It doesn't matter if you know who I'm talking about. With Paul Levesque, which is Triple H, he now runs the WWE, and they have the Road Dogg is one of the guys, and Bruce Pritchard and a couple of these other guys. Doesn't matter if you know who they are. They are the guys who come up collectively with the different storylines that are going to happen, and they play it out over time and how they will lead to certain things. One of the big knocks on all of this is that when they watch, people are like, no wonder some of the stories recently are so shitty. These guys are idiots. Like, they'll talk and say stuff, and you're like, well, if we do, and we won't do this. And all I kept thinking of was Joe Shane and those guys talking about free agents. Like, well, we're not going to, and then they're like, well, maybe we'll spend, and they're bringing up the running back for Green Bay, used to be with the Raiders. Forgetting his name.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
So, and they're like, well, we'll spend like 8, 9, 10 million. I'm like, you didn't want to give Barkley, and I was okay with letting him go. You didn't want to give Barkley this much money, but now you're bringing in Josh Jacobs. That's what I'm talking about. You're bringing in Josh Jacobs, who's like, he's got a lot of tread on those tires, by the way, and you want to go 8, 9 million for that guy. Then you're talking about this guy, or Turbo, which we ultimately did get in Devin Singletary. We'll bring him in, and I'm like, wait a second, you're paying all these other guys. You're going to get a guy. You're letting a guy go to go spend millions to bring in another guy who's not as good as the first guy you're letting go. I could run your fucking department. like, what is going on here? So John Harbaugh is going to have a huge say because he's going to build his team the way he wants to build his team. And it's not going to be left to the WWE's version of a pro personnel department in the NFL to come up with those names.
I would think.
Sorry, Motor. You're right, Jen.
I would think that you're correct. I would think that you're correct, and which again begs the question: what exactly do you do here? So that's why I'm going to be fascinated when the draft is over. Then the next, and those aren't really the kind of announcements that'll be the Giants will be proud to announce either. You know, they'll kind of be dripped out. You know, somebody there's one great account out there that follows just scouting news. I can't remember the name. It's a Twitter account. All he does is follow scouting news. And these guys, God bless them, they go into the individual team website pages and find out who's missing. Like somebody's name has all of a sudden disappeared, and they'll say, this scout is not working for the Giants anymore. But the Giants don't come out and say it. So it's going to be those kind of things where the middle of the night, somebody's not there anymore. It's things like that. There's people on the coaching staff page on BBI right now that I've kept as placeholders, but there's Laura Young. You remember that she was supposed to be this whiz kid assistant.
Oh yeah.
For Dable. I still got her on the page. I don't think she's probably there anymore, but those people, the Giants have not come out and announced anybody. I mean, the only thing we found out was right after Harbaugh came in, that initial announcement from beat reporters that the Giants are not going to retain the defensive staff. Remember that came out, and then they decided to keep Charlie Bullen. But they basically said they didn't even interview. Harbaugh didn't even interview the guys. They just let them go. And so there has been no announcement from the team about even officially who's departed or not. It's just been, people have gone on and left and reporters have picked up things, but there's been no official announcement. So, and the same thing with there may be other things like Kevin Abrams. And other teams do this. I'm still getting the Ravens guys that are now with the Giants. They're still up on the Ravens page. That's where I'm getting their bios from. So teams have not cleaned up these things. So we don't even know. There may have been other moves besides Kevin Abrams and Ronnie Barnes that we're not even privy to right now. And because there's no leaking. That's the thing. No one's leaking anything right now, which is a good thing. It's a little bit frustrating for us as fans, but no one's really leaking anything right now.
I think we should address the NFL has increased the salary cap for this year quite significantly. What's interesting is it doesn't really give the Giants a ton. It gives them more, but it doesn't give them a ton of space. There will be a lot of contract manipulation, but let's talk about that first, the increase in the cap, and then some areas that the Giants are going to have to look to kind of manipulate that a little bit to free up space, which they do have the ability to do.
Yeah, I always like it when it expands, but I don't take it as seriously as other people do, because I view it as if everybody's getting the same increase. So it's relative, you know what I mean? So the Giants will have more space, but so will everybody else. So in a way, it just inflates the prices on these guys. It's like printing money, if you will. If you're running the government, it's like printing money. It's gonna cause inflation. So it helps the Giants. But it's also going to cause other teams to also, it's going to cause the prices on the players to rise, because the players are going to say, well, you got more money now. I want a bigger contract. So I like it, but I don't overplay it. I don't overestimate it.
Right.
That's my view of it. At least.
Yeah, no. So it gives the Giants a little bit more freedom. It's not a ton. But the contracts the Giants are going to look to deal. I mean, you can count James Hudson's, his will be cleared out. I know a lot of people, and I think you even mentioned it, keep bringing up John Runyon. I'm going to be honest. I will be shocked, and I'll happily admit that I was wrong. I can't imagine Giants are going to cut John Runyon to free that cap space. You can't go into a season where you have 3 and potentially 4 if you count the center, especially if you're thinking about if Harbaugh and the Giants are thinking about Linderbaum, if he's available. That means you're going to be replacing, if you cut Runyon, you really are going to be replacing, or you have to re-sign and bring other guys. 4 of the 5 positions on your offensive line. I can't imagine that.
And it could go either way in my mind. You're exactly right. There's nothing wrong with what you just said. I just don't think Runyon's long for this team, because I don't think he's the style of guard. Well, this is the Monken factor. Now, if Monken was here, he's not the kind of guard. And if he brought in Warhop, he's not the kind of guard. Warhop is the offensive lineman in Baltimore that followed Monken to Cleveland, for those who don't know. But if they had come here, Runyon's not the kind of guy that they'd want long term. He might have survived one more year, which John is talking about, but I just don't think he would have been long term. He would have been here. He's a finesse guard. And so we'd have to see what kind. I have to believe on. I don't know if people have seen it, but why did John Harbaugh give Eskin the interview? Eskin's a piece of shit.
Yeah, that was weird. That was weird. I was surprised.
To his credit, Eskin was actually acting like a normal journalist during that interview, but Eskin's a piece of shit. But that was a really good interview. And listening to that interview, I still think John Harbaugh is going to build up the trenches, want to be a power team. John Runyon is not a power player. So you're 100%, John. Are they going to want to replace 4 of the 5 guys on a team that John Harbaugh has already said can compete right away? It doesn't sound like it, but I wouldn't think if I'm building a power football team, John Runyon's not my left guard, but that's me. The other thing with the Monken thing that sucks is if you are somebody who wanted to bring Linderbaum in, Linderbaum would have been an easy plug and play guy because he would have known Monken and Warhop, known the language, known the system, could have taught the other linemen what the whole ball of wax is. Now Linderbaum would come into this situation with a new offensive line coach, a new language, a new offensive coordinator, a new system. So that advantage of like sort of bringing in the Raven guy on, at least on offense, is sort of gone now with Monken out of the picture. So that's another, again, people are
which also puts Cleveland in play.
Yes.
For potentially for him as well.
Yeah.
So yes.
Again, and I don't want people to start saying, "Oh, Jesus, Eric, you're making too big a deal on Monken." Look, we'll be fine without Monken. It just complicates things. That's all I'm saying. Anyone who says it's not a big deal, I disagree. Is it disastrous? No. It's just, but it is a big deal.
I will say though, Harbaugh's identity on offense hasn't changed dramatically.
No.
Through the years, even with multiple coordinator changes.
Other than Lamar Jackson's running ability.
Right. But that changed the one position.
Right.
They tended to have a bigger offensive line. They've gone big power guys. One thing that they did, now I don't know that it was always to their benefit, is they took guys who were tackles that lacked the foot speed to remain at tackle in the NFL. And usually guys that get like that, they're kind of more of a consistent size and you move them inside. Some of these guys like Falele out of Minnesota, he's much taller. Usually don't want to get a 6'7", 6'8" guard, that they're a lot harder to get down into that stance.
Right,
but they did. They went huge on that. So keep an eye on some of the tackles that are the 6'6", 6'7", kind of big, but don't have the foot speed to stay at tackle. They might be later round guys that the Giants look to bring in to add some depth on that line. But I do think we're going to go big regardless of who the offensive coordinator is, because that's the philosophy that Harbaugh's teams have had.
Yeah, what did he tell Eskin, who covers the Eagles, by the way? He told, we're going to build our team to beat the Eagles. Now, some people said, well, you have to beat other teams too. But I understand what you're saying. Bill Parcells, when he was head coach of the New York Giants, knew he had to build a team to beat the Washington Redskins.
Right.
Yes, Dallas was in the division too. The Cardinals were in the division, etc. But the Redskins under Joe Gibbs and the Hogs and that team, and it's like that 1986 team, the best team in the NFL other than the New York Giants was the Washington Redskins that year. And that's why that championship game scared the bejesus out of me when we beat them 17-0, because that was the only team I thought had a legitimate chance of beating the Giants that year, because that's the team that Bill Parcells built the beat, and he successfully did it. Sure. John Harbaugh, what he's telling me when he makes that comment is this, and now that's how I'm reading it, is we're gonna build a team that's strong in the trenches. We're gonna be bigger and more physical up front on offensive line and on the defensive line. We're going to run the ball. We're going to stop the run. And that, again, that's, as I said last week, pump that straight into my veins. That's what I want to hear. And if you can beat the Eagles, you're going to be able to handle the Cowboys. By the way, the Cowboys have owned the shit out of us too. People I don't think they forget that, but the Cowboys have owned us even more than the Eagles in recent years. Dak Prescott's record against us is outrageous. So, but I think if we beat the Eagles, we'll beat the Cowboys. And I think that's how John Harbaugh views it too.
Well, and I think I'm not saying you do, but I think in general, I think people are putting too much emphasis on the Eagles part of what he was saying. And the Eagles are really the representation of the NFC East.
Yes.
They are the first team to win back-to-back division titles in forever. They're the one team in the NFC that's been to the Super Bowl recently and has won the Super Bowl, but they've been multiple times.
Right.
They've been considered one of the best teams in the NFL over the last X number of years. So it's not just that they owned us. It is that they have been the dominant team in the NFC East and one of the dominant teams in the NFC. So you say that's who we're trying to beat, but that really means you're trying to beat everybody else too.
Right, correct.
I'm going after the top and I'm taking everybody else with me.
Correct. And that's how I view it too.
Yeah.
But again, the Eagles' identity under Roseman has been strong in the trenches.
Yeah, big physical.
So we have somebody associated with the New York Football Giants since Tom Coughlin, who has come to the same conclusion, which again, call me an old fart, but I think football is won in the trenches. You got to have a quarterback. I'm not saying you don't need a quarterback, but you got to be able to block people and stop the run. And we've gotten away from that for 14 years, and look at our record in the last 14 years. So that's, again, I think we overcomplicate things at times. So, and the Giants have tried to do this, and they've failed miserably. They've signed Nate Solder. They drafted Evan Neal. They've got Glowinski from the Colts. We could go that name by name on free agents and draft picks that they've gone through, even pre Shane. We can talk about Gettleman. We can talk about Jerry Reese. We can talk about all these guys and who they brought in and signed. It hasn't worked out. So
how interesting and weirdly parallel is it that it crossed over because it was Reese Gettleman and then it went to Shane. But let's just use we'll make Reese and Gettleman the same guy because they crossed over each other at the very end. The Giants go and draft very high in the draft Eric Flowers.
Yeah, we just saw this comment here.
So they draft Eric Flowers. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the following year the Giants draft Eli Apple?
I'd have to check. So
I think it's the following year. He's the first.
All blur together now.
So I think they draft. So you have Flowers.
It's around the same time period, at least.
Higher draft picks at those positions. They end up completely just not making it. Giants turn around. Evan Neal. Following year, the Giants go and get Deonte Banks.
Right.
Tackle, corner, boom, boom, fail. And it's very similar, right? If you look at Neal and Flowers, there were similar questions about both. A little bit more on Flowers than there was on Neal, but it was, do they have the foot speed? Do they have the athleticism to stay at tackle? Now, Neal was considered to be a good athlete, but not a left tackle. He would have to play right, but there were still questions about whether he could handle the outside speed because he tended to get on the ground a lot at Alabama, but he got away with it. Flowers had similar problems. There was a big question on, can this guy stay at tackle? I hated that pick when it happened, by the way. I hated it.
Yeah.
I just think it's really funny that in very, very much like boom, boom, fail, fail, and we turned around and did the same damn thing again later on, tackle, corner, they're at this point, you'd have to say they're both failures.
Yeah. I've seen a couple, I think most Giants fans have moved on, but I've seen a couple of BBI are still thinking that Evan Neal might have a future here.
As what?
I don't know. I don't.
Security guard?
Because he's going to Charles Bentley's thing, and now he's going to take it serious. Again, I come back to the fact that at the end of the year, they put him on the they take him off that injury list to put him open his window, and he gets hurt with 3 separate injuries in practice somehow. Because it was a hamstring and it was a neck. And the other one was like a shoulder or something. I don't know what it was, but there were like 3 I'm like, how is he getting hurt?
This is the first guy that got hurt thinking about practice.
I mean, how does that even happen? I mean, I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Yeah.
We had that one safety years ago. Like,
was it Thompson?
No, it was Burley. He had a calf injury that never healed.
Oh my God.
Do you remember that guy?
I know what you're talking about.
The whole year with a calf injury. And he came back and he immediately got hurt again. Anyways, but Evan Neal's way worse because it's like a new injury and he didn't play a snap last year.
So
he didn't play one snap.
This idea of people saying, oh, he's working with Charles Bentley. Oh, he says he's really going to put in the effort. I kind of equate that to like my kids when I look at their grades and I'm like, what the hell, dude? You got 4 assignments in a row that you didn't hand in. You got a 0, and then you got like a 40 on a test. Don't worry, Dad. I got this. I'm going to do better this time. I'm going to work harder. Well, what proof do you have of that? Give me a break.
So there are people on this team that I can't imagine John Harbaugh's going to have anything to do with. And the other one is Jalen Hyatt. I can't imagine he's going to want to have anything to do with Jalen Hyatt at all. I can't imagine. I would not feel very secure if I'm Deonte Banks. I do want to mention this. We didn't talk about this enough. I know we're going long here. And
we're wrapping up, Charlie. Yep.
Denard Wilson is a defensive back guy. That's his background. And he did very well with the defensive backs in Tennessee and in Baltimore. And people who haven't seen it, shout out to Patty Traina, did a really good interview with a Tennessee Titans reporter on Denard Wilson and how his 2-year tenure there went in terms of both. He had a really good first year. In the second year, the stats didn't look as great, but they went through why that didn't, because of all the injuries. And there were a couple really interesting points. Number one, the writer said that the personnel-wise, Tennessee had maybe the worst set of edge rushers in the NFL, but the second half of the year, Tennessee was rushing the passer almost as well as any team in the NFL because he was choreographing, scheming the pass rush with defensive backs, with linebackers, basically scheming it. And he said that the guy's reaction was, I can't imagine what Denard Wilson's going to be able to do now that he doesn't have to scheme all that, because he's going to have Abdul Carter and he's going to have Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. He says he's going to be able to not have to do all that. But he said the other thing was he's really that the Titans got hammered with injuries in the secondary, yet were able to hold it together. And he thought that was a perfect matchup with the Giants, because at Denard Wilson's background with the defensive backs, he knew the Giants were weaker in the secondary, despite all the signings and draft picks we've made.
And the money,
he thought he would do what it was a perfect matchup, because now he's got the pass rushers, plus he can focus more on the weakness area for the Giants. And then of course that started me thinking maybe he can get Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland to play up to the level that they're supposed to be. And I'm thinking maybe Deonte Banks, but how do you? I don't know if you can coach toughness. You know what I mean? You're either tough or you're not.
Yeah.
So I don't. So Deonte Banks to me is kind of one of those guys, like you mentioned the last show. Was John Harbaugh referencing people like Deonte Banks when he said, "I want people who chase"? And
Jason, and do something. You're going there to make the tackle. You're not running alongside and watching it. I want guys that are going to, and that's been a big problem for the Giants, right? One of the things we talked about is you can say smart, tough, and dependable, which, by the way, it sounds really stupid when you, on a consistent basis, show you're none of those things. But it's another thing to actually bring a brand of physical football. On offense, if you do a lot of, and the RPO piece is going to be there no matter what, but if you do a lot of what I call passive runs, which are the ones where you kind of drop back a little bit and then you give the handoff, so you're kind of giving the impression you're going to throw for a second and then you do the handoff. The linemen are not firing off forward. They're because you got to give the impression of what the quarterback is pretending to do. But that also means, from a mentality standpoint, you are not being physical with the other team. You're really hoping to scheme them and direct them out of the way. That works fine until you get inside the 10-yard line.
Right.
When he gets out of the 10-yard line, all that shit goes out the window. And now that's where we really lacked over the years. That's where I thought Cam Scatterboo coming in, he brought that sort of physical mentality, and you've mentioned it more than once. That whole second half of that Thursday night Philadelphia game was the Giants' offensive line said, "I don't care what you're doing, we're running right."
And it was great. It was my favorite. That was one of the best games. All right. So while you were talking, before you got to the point that you just made, that was going to be my point, is and you brought it up before I had said it. I said, it's why I hate being in the shotgun inside the 10-yard line. I hate it. I hate it when we're in. I hate when teams go shotgun down on the goal line because it's a passive way to attack. I like lining up under the center, and again, doesn't mean you can't pass, but I hate it when they go in shotgun in the red zone like that tight. And because it's passive to me. So that's just and everybody does it, even the successful teams. I hate it. I hate it when teams do that. I think it's a wimpy way to play football. Line up, pound the football. And there have been a lot of things on YouTube the last couple of weeks on top Giants, New York Giants touchdowns. It's not a long thing, but all the New York Giants touchdowns in 2025. I shouldn't say that because the offense was better.
It didn't take long.
Let's just say the 2024 and 2023 you could have done, in 5 minutes. But they've done like Scadaboo's top plays last year, and they've done those top things. And when I watched them, I'm like, man, this team missed Cam Scadaboo. They really did in the red zone, but just in terms of toughness and him just running over people. And he did it more than I even remembered him doing. I'm like, damn. So it looks like Cam Scadaboo is trending in the right direction where they think he's going to be ready for the offseason program, even in terms of the OTAs. I mean, we'll see about that, but he's trending in the right direction. Neighbors, I'm a little more concerned about.
Right.
That seems more a serious injury than we were. We talked about this while we were on. I'm going to have to update the site about that. And John, you said, it's funny, you said he was the assistant quarterback coach.
That's what he was listed as. Yes.
Okay. So which means I still have a write-up on him. I kept those just in case those guys did stay around. That'll be easy to update. Anything else you wanted to go over while we're on?
Yeah, it was in chat. I'll just share it. So it is official for the Bills. Jim Leonard is their defensive coordinator. So Jim Leonard was the Broncos pass game coordinator, was a guy that was considered a possibility for the Giants defensive coordinator position. He is the defensive coordinator in Buffalo. Buffalo's an interesting one too. I'm really surprised at the direction that they went in. Their offense didn't exactly light fire at the end of the year, and you're going with the offense. But that to me says you're appeasing Josh Allen. You don't want to upset the apple cart there. You want that to stay together and look to improve the defense. By the way, I don't know how that GM gets a pass on that situation. Joe Shane being with the Giants still is not the same thing as being the GM in Buffalo, in that Joe Shane has clearly been neutered, as you like to say. We brought in a guy who is clearly above him in stature within the organization. You know that by the way the Giants went all out to go get him, and it was everything was about getting John Harbaugh, and you heard the fact that the contract took what it did and the rumors about what was the dealing with that says that some of the power, if not most of the power of Joe Shane had, really has been pulled away, and John Harbaugh has that. In Buffalo, they basically are just going, no. Bean's not the problem. He's not and they even named the wide receiver, Keon Coleman. They're like, don't blame that on Bean. The coaching staff really want him. First off, you're throwing the guy on that's still, it's like if they went out, the Giants went out and just talked about Deonte Banks by name and just said, hey, look, that's not Shane's fault. That was Dayball's fault that we even got him. But he's still on your team, by the way. You cut him while you're at it. So anyway, that whole thing is just very interesting.
My impression, without having any intimate knowledge of either team, is that Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen made the coaching decisions in both teams. And Monken was tied in with the Baltimore decision that Lamar Jackson did not want Monken there anymore. And the owner went to appease the quarterback. And I have a funny feeling the same things happened in Buffalo, that Josh Allen probably just wanted to move on. That's my gut instinct. I have no I have no knowledge of that. It just feels like that to me. Is my guess.
I totally agree. I will throw this out there.
If you want Tish, rewatch the show. We spent about the first 40 minutes on Tish. So if you're coming into us late, watch the show in the beginning.
Yeah, we covered that
fireworks. So.
Yeah. I would not be surprised, regardless of some of the things that we have heard, like they're still interviewing people. I would not be surprised if the Giants don't announce an offensive coordinator and some other positions very quickly.
To get the Tish thing off the thing.
To have some other piece out there than that. The next big thing, it was posted in chat, and I agree, the next big thing is going to be So if you're not familiar with the Super Bowl, it's an entire the week of the Super Bowl is an entire week of a lot of award shows, interviews, live shows being done, and they usually call it like press row. So wherever they are, it's a street or whatever else that they have in all these different locations and things going on. Roger Goodell will be addressing at different points in time. The questions are going to come up. So whether the NFL addresses this very specifically or doesn't is going to be very telling. If they address it specifically and really say, like, bring something down, you can expect something big. If they don't say anything, then I think they're trying to mitigate the waters and hope that nothing else comes out, and they're going to push all the positive press that they can in other areas to try to.
But which also is a little bit risky, though. So I hope they don't push to hire somebody for the wrong reason just to get Tish off the front page. And they take, again, if they're going to take their time. I hope they take their time and do it right. So so there's a little risk there. I hope they're not leaning on Harbaugh saying speed this up because we have to get Tish off the front page. I want to throw something out there that maybe people don't want, because I saw somebody mention Dan Dierdorf in comments. Growing up, you and I again are roughly the same age.
Yeah. But
even guys younger than us have gone through years of watching football online and on TV and having our favorite color analysts, people who hate Dan Dierdorf or Chris Collinsworth or whatever, everyone has is it me or is Tony Romo the worst announcer in the history of the NFL? Or is it just I have something about him rubs me the wrong way? I cannot watch a game when Tony Romo is doing the game. He won't shut up. He won't shut up. It's unbelievable. I mean, maybe I'm asking you to be objective here. Am I off my rocker? Because he won't even let the game breathe.
Well, I'll say that I thought in the past it was overblown by a lot of people that they didn't, just because they didn't like Romo. Because one of the things that he used to be pretty good at is he would call out plays before they'd happen, like, oh, they're doing this, that. But the problem that I had with that was, well, you also talk to these guys all week, so you know some of their game plans. So when you see the formation, it's not that hard. By the way, I can call out a lot of the plays too. What has changed though over this last year is he not only talks a lot, but he said a lot of shit that didn't make any sense. Like, he said some stuff and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? That is not even remotely right. And he gets called out on it online a lot. They were like, what is he talking about here? That's ridiculous. The opposite of that, Tom Brady has really improved in the booth. I actually think
I was going the opposite way. Tom Brady's a close second to me. He's
really?
Well,
no, I'm just
this is where I'm coming from. I don't want to have to me, the pinnacle is John Madden and Pat Summerall. Okay.
Sure.
And they would just there were moments that they'd shut up and they'd let the crowd reaction tell the story. And they would just say a few words. I don't want to hear Tony Romo tell me what he would do. It seems like every other play, he's telling the audience what he would do. And if he thinks he's right, he goes on to tell the audience that he was right. I don't want to hear that. I don't. It has nothing to do with me not liking Tony Romo as a player. I didn't like Troy Aikman because he was a Cowboy, but Troy Aikman doesn't do. I mean, I don't hate Troy Aikman. I can't stand Romo. He just won't shut. Anyway, why I'm bringing it up is the conference championship games were painful to me because of Tom Brady and Tony Romo to me, and I think Tom Brady's better, but he does a little bit of the same thing too. I just miss Pat Summerall and people always say Dan Dierdorf was terrible. To me, Dan Dierdorf was infinitely better than these clowns. But that's me.
So I mean, we're gonna
we got right.
But just for fun, and I know we have different age groups in here, so it's kind of, I guess it's everybody's. Who was your favorite? So not highlight person, actually calling the game. Who was your favorite voice? That voice was iconic when they would do a game.
Are you on radio or TV?
Let's go with TV. I mean, watch it, but it could. I guess it could be radio. But let's go TV.
It's Pat Summerall. I would still say Pat Summerall.
See, I always like Kurt Gowdy's voice. Just always, There was just something about his voice. You knew, and it was NBC football. You knew you were watching that. Dick Enberg and Merlin Olsen, I liked as a team together. One of their worst was when they put Bill Walsh in the booth. You could know everything about football, and you can't possibly communicate in a way that makes it interesting. And that was Bill Walsh. He was so horrible. But I like Kurt Gowdy's voice. He was great with baseball too. I mean, he was great with baseball. But
I associate great Giant moments with Pat Summerall and John Madden, even the funny ones.
True,
like we've talked
true.
about before, when they didn't even know what the words said. Like one of the things that was funny was John Madden when they come back from break in the playoff game, and they're like, the stadium's playing "We Will Rock You," and they're going, what are they saying? We will rock you. And they go, yeah. And they all seem to know the words, stuff like that. And then there was the Minnesota playoff game where they didn't know what the word onus meant. And they kept saying omus, O-M-U-S. They kept going about, and they wouldn't let it go. They kept talking about the omus.
Yeah.
It's just stuff like that.
It's Omos, and he's a really big wrestler. Can't do anything in the ring. One of my favorite John Madden moments ever with what he said. So it was the Rams, and I can't remember who they were playing. Dropped back, and the I can't remember who the quarterback was. It was a Dietrich. Threw a pass, and it was a pass to Duckworth, incomplete. And Madden goes, looked more like a duck to Passworth. The ball was just like, it was hysterical. They were great. They were great. There's a guy, I think his name is Kevin Gallagher on X, who shares a lot of old clips, very much like Big Blue VCR. Murder, She Wrote, right? Murder, She Wrote.
Followed by Murder, She Wrote.
But but you got to do the pause. Yeah, you got to do you go Murder, She Wrote. Yeah. So Kevin Gallagher on X does a lot of these old clips of the NFL stuff across the board, where Big Blue VCR will do Matt and SGS. Well, he'll do things specific to the Giants. This guy does a lot of stuff over. And when you get some of those old, just the old voices of the past, of course, iconic is the pregame shows, which I don't watch anymore at all. I just wait for the games to start. But when you would always get Brent Musburger going, "You are looking live at sold out Giant Stadium."
Yeah. You're looking. He used to say, "You're looking live at the Meadowlands."
Sometimes it'd be sold out Giant Stadium now, but yes.
And that's when they used to have 2 people in the studio, not 5. By the way, so Jennifer, I agree with you, and somebody else said the same thing about that was a good call, iconic call, Manning. But again, that you later posted.
But it's also Manning, Burris alone, touchdown. Yes. So,
but I hope you're not. This is another guy that needs to hang it up.
Oh,
he sounds bored as hell the last few years about calling a game. He just doesn't seem like he's even interested in
a 57-yard touchdown, and you think they just picked up a 3rd and 7. I'm like, dude, they just scored. Like,
I know. He needs to retire. And I used to love him, but Terry Bradshaw needs. I mean, I know he's not doing games, but my God, he needs to retire.
Did you see the clip recently? They came back. They had just finished talking about. The Broncos Patriots game, and then they were finishing up talking about it. So they came back from a clip, and they come to Terry. Terry just starts talking about the Seahawks Rams game, and Michael Strahan goes, "Well, we were finishing the other game, but yeah, okay."
I didn't see that. It's just painful to watch some of these guys. It's like, go, you got a buttload of money, go retire and lay on a beach someplace. Well, I mean, anyways, that's
anyway.
Right,
so
we should wrap this up.
We will have a show. I can't say we'll do more than one, just because not a lot's happening right now until we get more stuff with the Giants.
No, there's a lot happening.
Well, you know what I mean, though. But it's not done. We could talk about, we can just sort of guess. But we're going to try to. It is Super Bowl week. We definitely, if more comes out, if there's something big happens, we will find time and we'll get that on there. We will cover more about what's happening with the coaching staff. Now we got to start looking forward. The Senior Bowl is to this weekend, right? And then you starting looking forward. We're about 3 weeks away, a little less than 3 weeks away from the Combine. So that's going to be a big deal. And a lot of stuff happens at the Combine. Trades get discussed. things, they can't be finalized until the league year starts, but they certainly can go get that kind of worked out, and you'll see some teams do that. There's a lot that's going to be happening. Teams are going to, we saw a massive change in the coaching landscape in the NFL, and that's going to change what a lot of these teams are doing, wanted to do, and that means their rosters are going to change drastically. Guys that you weren't thinking are going to be free, there's going to be some guys coming free that we hadn't thought about. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Well, we also have to watch again. We've been talking about how many Ravens might be coming over from Baltimore, but now it'd be interesting to see, does Brian Daboll bring over some New York Giants?
Please
do. Does Wan'Dale Robinson end up as a Tennessee Titan, for instance? Things like that, because they have who has more cap space? Tennessee's got way more cap space.
Go for it. You may be saving us from any kind of mistake that we can make on our own. Go for it. Spend all the money.
So again, I'm not advocating for getting rid of Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm just saying there's, like, to piggyback on what you just said, the coaching changes are going to have a dramatic effect on people leaving, coming and going.
And that also means, look at Tennessee's defense. Who's there that Wilson might have a relationship with?
That's a really good point.
It's not always about how. Thank you. It's not always how good they are. It's what do they bring mentally about the scheme I'm about to put in. I need guys that can teach it on the field. And if I can overcome some of their limitations with the other players around them, and they can make sure people are where they are. Let's be honest, right? Kavika Mitchell being with the Giants years ago, he wasn't the best player out there, but he knew what he was doing. Antonio Pierce wasn't exactly sought at across the league. He played a role with the Giants, and it was a very good one, and he was a very good player, but he was a very smart player that could run the scheme, and that's what we need to look for.
And there are players that are flying under the radar for obvious reasons. So the Giants signed Chris Board from the Ravens last year, and he missed the entire season. I think he got hurt in either preseason or the training camp, and he missed the entire season. People are like, who the hell is Chris Board? He was one of the free agents we signed. He was the special teams captain on the Baltimore Ravens in 2024, and he's been a stud special teams player for the Ravens for like 7 years under Chris Horton, who is now our special teams coordinator. So somebody like Chris Board, who's on our roster, he's under contract. People are not even thinking about him. He's probably almost guaranteed a roster spot right now because of his relationship with the special teams coordinator. It's stuff like that. And he's a Raven. He's an ex-Raven. So
right.
Yeah.
All right. So that being said, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and well, let's just hope nothing bad comes out over the next couple of days.
I thought we were past the it can always get worse stage. I guess I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. There's bad, and then there's holy. I was not expecting that. I should have. I mean, but the thing is, maybe you just didn't expect the stuff. We probably all thought that dude could be on that list, but you just never expected that it actually would be out there. And now that it is, now you got to do something with it. So we'll see what happens. But again, like, subscribe, please. We've been doing great. We're really growing. We got a lot of plans. I know I haven't talked to Eric about it yet, but I am thinking we will probably make sure that we're available. I have some time. I might take off right at the beginning of the league year and have some fun on free agency, but we will definitely be doing some draft stuff because that was a lot of fun. So we'll catch you up real soon. And for those of you who are about to get snowgeddon for here down in South Carolina, 6 inches of snow might be a shit ton. My Bronco's ready to go 4-wheel drive. I can't wait to see some of these jackasses who can't drive with no weather when they do in the snow. Catch you again real soon. Thanks for watching.